Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to welcome you all today. Today, we're going to explore a wonderful story through our project titled, The Best Christmas Present in the World. We'll look at the main themes, characters, and the lessons this story offers. So, let's get started and enjoy this journey together. Welcome to Slide 2. Here, we're highlighting some of the key moments and themes that run through our story. First, the celebration marks a special occasion that brings everyone together. Jim and Connie are central figures, and their relationship and experiences are woven throughout this narrative. Next, we have War or Football, which reflects the tough choices and passions that influence our characters' lives. The letter symbolizes communication and the importance of connection, especially during challenging times. Then we have Mrs. Macpherson, a memorable character who adds depth and perspective to the story. Dorset and Hardy remind us of the beautiful setting and literary influences that enrich the narrative. The burnt house is a pivotal moment that signifies loss and resilience. The roll top refers to a meaningful object that holds sentimental value. Finally, Unforgettable Moments encapsulates the emotional peaks of the story, reminding us of the power of memory and experience. All these points come together to illustrate the overall theme of celebration, challenge, and connection that runs throughout our presentation. Today, I want to talk about the lesson, The Best Christmas Present in the World. This story is set during a time of war, and it beautifully captures the emotional depth of that situation. It recounts a Christmas story where soldiers, despite being in the midst of conflict, deeply long for their families and the warmth of home. On the flip side, it also highlights how families, especially those waiting at home, yearn for their loved ones to return safely. One touching example from the story is of a woman named Connie, who is over 100 years old. Her husband was a soldier in the British Army. When a visitor comes to see her, she mistakenly believes he is her husband, Jim. In that moment, she calls what she thinks is her reunion with Jim the best Christmas present in the world. This story reminds us of the powerful emotions tied to family and love, even amid the hardships of war. It beautifully illustrates that the true gift during Christmas isn't just a physical object. It's the hope, reunion, and love that we cherish most. As we explore this lesson, think about how it connects to the overall theme of the importance of family, hope, and resilience during difficult times. So here where the story really begins, I found a roll-top desk in a junk shop. It was in pretty bad shape, honestly scratched, worn, and clearly neglected. But despite that, it was surprisingly inexpensive. I saw potential in it and I thought to myself, I can restore this. So I decided to buy it. And I didn't wait long. My work started on Christmas Eve. It was a perfect time to begin, kind of symbolic of a new chapter. This desk isn't just a piece of furniture. It's a project, a challenge, and a chance to bring something old back to life. This story about the desk ties into the overall theme of renewal and transformation, showing that even things that seem beyond repair can be restored with patience and effort. Now, let's look at this intriguing discovery. We see Mrs. Jim Macpherson's address at 12 Copper Beeches, Bridport. The scene unfolds as someone pulls out the drawers of an old piece of furniture, revealing that they have been badly damaged by fire and water. The seller had mentioned that the item was very old, dating back to the 19th century, and made of oak. One drawer in particular was stuck fast, requiring a lot of force to open. When it finally gave way, it revealed a secret space inside. And what was found inside? A small tin box with a very poignant inscription on top. It read, Jim's last letter, received January 25, 1915, to be buried with me when the time comes. Inside that box was an envelope addressed to Mrs. Jim Macpherson at the same address, dated December 26, 1914. This discovery raises many questions about the story behind Jim and his last letter, and how it connects to the overall theme of secrets and history buried in everyday objects. It's a powerful reminder of how personal artifacts can hold significant stories from the past. Now, let's look at this intriguing slide with the names Connie Macpherson and Jim Macpherson. These are, of course, the wife and husband involved in our story. The key point here is that the letter we read was written by Jim Macpherson, the captain of the English Army. It's important because it gives us a personal glimpse into his experiences during the war. What's really special is that Jim wrote this letter to his wife, Connie. It's a heartfelt communication, and within it, he recounts a wonderful incident that took place on Christmas Day on the battlefield. This story stands out because it highlights a moment of humanity amidst the chaos of war. So, when we connect this to our overall theme, it's about the power of personal stories to reveal the human side of history. Despite the hardships of war, moments like these remind us of hope, kindness, and the enduring bond between loved ones. Jim's letter is more than just a war report. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. On this slide, we see a remarkable moment during the war where the English and German soldiers found themselves in an extraordinary situation. Despite being at war and in their respective trenches, something unexpected happened. Macpherson, one of the soldiers, noticed a white flag waving from the enemy side, which is a universal sign of truce or peace. Soon after, many German soldiers called out to the English soldiers, wishing them a happy Christmas. The English responded with a simple, "Same to you," thinking it was just a friendly gesture. But then, to everyone's surprise, many Germans started moving toward the English lines. The English soldiers were understandably cautious, thinking it might be a trick. However, it turned out to be genuine. The Germans brought with them wine and canned meat, and the soldiers from both sides began to share food and even hug each other. This moment of humanity highlights how, even in the midst of war, moments of kindness and connection can emerge. The German officer, Hans Wolff from Dusseldorf, and Macpherson, the English schoolteacher from Dorset, shook hands warmly. This brief ceasefire allowed them to see each other not just as enemies, but as fellow human beings, sharing a moment of peace and camaraderie. This story is unforgettable because it shows the power of compassion, even in the darkest times, and reminds us of our shared humanity beyond conflicts. Hans Wolff smiled warmly as he shared his connection to Dorset. He mentioned that, surprisingly, he had never actually been to England himself. However, he knew the country through its language and its literature. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy, a renowned author closely associated with Dorset's landscape and stories. In fact, his favorite book was Far from the Madding Crowd, which is set in that very region. Through Hardy's work, Hans Wolff had learned a lot about Dorset's scenery, character, and culture. At the same time, Macpherson shared a special holiday moment with Hans Wolff by offering him a Christmas cake that his wife had sent. Hans Wolff remarked that the marzipan on the cake was the best he had ever tasted, highlighting the warmth and camaraderie of the festive season. This story beautifully ties together the themes of literature, place, and shared experiences, emphasizing how books and personal connections can bridge distances and create meaningful moments, even when we haven't visited a place ourselves. It reminds us that understanding a place can come from stories and the people we share our lives with, enriching our appreciation of different cultures and traditions. And then, a soldier unexpectedly brought out a football. The soldiers started playing, and you can imagine how everyone, including Macpherson and Hans Wolff, clapped and cheered them on. It's quite a powerful image despite the chaos and conflict. They found a moment of joy through something as simple as a game. Hans Wolff even suggested that the world might be a much better place if we resolved our problems with a football match instead of war. This highlights a really important idea. Sometimes, a different approach, like sport, can bring people together and help us see that there are peaceful ways to solve conflicts. It ties back to the overall theme of the presentation, showing how unity and understanding can be achieved through shared human moments, even in the darkest times. After the football match, we found ourselves in no man's land, a place between conflict and camaraderie. People were smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, and eating, just enjoying the moment after all the tension. Hans Wolff and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. He thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted, and I couldn't agree more. It's interesting how such simple moments can bring people together, even enemies. We found common ground over something as small as a cake, and in that moment, we agreed about everything. Despite everything, he was my enemy, but that didn't matter then. That Christmas party felt truly special, like nothing else before or since. It highlights how shared experiences and kindness can break down barriers, even in the midst of conflict. So, after reading the letter, I carefully put it back into the envelope. I thought it was important to return it to its rightful owner. The address indicated it was from Bridport, Dorset, so I decided to make the trip there. When I arrived at house number 12, I was shocked to find that it was just a burned-out shell, a result of candles that must have started the fire. It turned out that Mrs. Macpherson was inside the house when the fire broke out, but luckily, the fire brigade managed to get her out just in time. Remarkably, she was 101 years old, quite an incredible age. Today, she's living in a nursing home, safe and cared for. This story highlights how sometimes, even in unexpected circumstances, kindness and quick action can make all the difference. So I visited the nursing home and met the matron there. She mentioned that Mrs. Macpherson was feeling quite confused that day, which is not unusual for her. They had placed her in the conservatory to help her feel a bit more comfortable. I found Mrs. Macpherson sitting quietly in a chair, and as I approached, she looked up at me with a vacant stare. But the moment I called her Connie and handed her the letter, her eyes suddenly lit up with recognition. I explained how I had come across the letter and was eager to share the news with her. However, it was clear she wasn't really listening to what I was saying. Instead, she reached out and took my hand, and her eyes filled with tears. It was as if she believed her Jim had come back to her. She kept saying that her Jim had kept his promise. He had returned just in time for Christmas. She made me sit beside her, then she kissed my cheek and talked to me for a long while, full of love and fond memories. It was a truly touching moment, and she told me she had received the best Christmas present in the world, that her Jim was back, even if just in her heart. This moment highlights the deep emotional connection and hope that the holiday season can inspire, even in the most difficult circumstances.